Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our July 18th meeting already. Whoa. Okay. So we are going to get started with a Rotary Minute from Pastor Paul.
Where are you sitting today, my dear?
Find a seat. To see who's sitting here.
It's your husband.
Oh, okay, so I'll sit over there. Sorry.
Not a problem. We can
Oh,
go. Not a problem.
it's waiting for you.
There you go. I'm usually late.
No.
So, of course, Rotary is well known for its commitment to service. Of course, there's also related commitments to cooperation. And both of those commitments were in evidence this past week. As it happens, Vermont was again hit with floods. And so in response, on Friday, I was in conversation with our own Charlie McGill, who knows a thing or two about responding to disasters. And in consultation with Charlie, we made a decision here at Williston-Richmond Church to again hold a flood bucket Sunday. We've done that last year, and assembling supplies placed in buckets to be shipped off to areas adversely affected by the flood, and those clean supplies to be put to use where they were needed. And it occurred to me that we had the opportunity at Williston-Richmond Church to again collaborate with the Rotary Club. As happened actually last year, that was in a much more informal way when we also held a flood bucket Sunday here at Williston-Richmond Church. And there was a collection here at the Williston-Richmond Rotary Club for flood bucket supplies. Now, last year, the collaboration took the form primarily of Charlie McGill. So the Rotary collected supplies, Charlie gathered them up, and then the church collected supplies, and Charlie gathered them up, and Charlie took them off to Northeast Kingdom where they were needed. This year, we were a bit more intentional about that collaboration. And so, as you know, well, I should back up and say, so Friday afternoon, that's when decisions were made. Here at the church, we decided to hold the flood bucket Sunday. I sent an email out to the congregation and related folk. And then in a conversation both with Charlie and with Elizabeth, decided it'd be a great idea to again cooperate between the two organizations, Williston-Richmond Church and the Williston-Richmond Rotary Club. And so, as it happens, I think it was early Saturday morning, my email went out to this club. Now, it was exceedingly short notice for supplies to arrive at the church in time for Sunday, from Saturday morning to Sunday, for those supplies then to be assembled by the folks following worship here at Williston-Richmond Church. So there were some who might have been skeptical that the response would have been significant. But let me describe the response for you. So at the conclusion of Sunday, there were 20 completed flood buckets, 4 of which went out the door that afternoon, Sunday afternoon, heading up to the Northeast Kingdom where they're needed. Then on Monday, there were 16 remaining flood buckets. Another one arrived on the scene just in the time as a truckload was ready to head off to Waterbury, where these remaining 17 buckets were distributed. And the story doesn't even end there, because there were then additional supplies that were brought that didn't quite fit into one of the completed buckets. And so now, sitting not far from where we sit, are at least 3 additional completed flood buckets, which we are holding in reserve. This is what some of the denominational leaders are suggesting we should do, recognizing that another disaster may be around the corner down the road, and it doesn't hurt to have a few flood buckets on site in case that disaster happens close at home, or if we need to ship them out in rapid order. So once again, the extraordinary commitment to service that is so evident in the Rotary Club, we saw again this past week. That commitment to collaboration was evident as well. And these are hardly the first times that this club and this church have worked together. Many of you have enjoyed the trunk or treat events on Halloween. Those began as a collaboration between this club and this church. Others have joined the party now, and we're delighted they have. But it started out as a collaboration between our two organizations. So in celebration of this club and its commitment to making the world a better place, I just say thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Paul. I love that we have so much collaboration. It's inspiring for sure. And thank you for spearheading some flood relief. I know some of us were shoveling flood mud again, and I do know people who lost their homes and their farms and lots of things. So any way you can help. I know that Intervale has a fund to help their farmers, some of whom are dear friends of mine. So
You should have called. We could have helped you shovel that out.
I don't know if we had enough space in the one basement that we were in, but thank you. Anyway, next, we have our speaker, and so I'm gonna invite Ted to introduce our speaker. Thanks, Ted.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How many of us remember Michael Coates? I see our speaker raised her hand too. Yeah, Mike was a founding member of this club, and I got to know him here and also in other experiences in Williston. A good man. One time, he told me that he knew that his daughter Tricia was really getting places in the world because he was being introduced as Tricia Coates' father. Not as, and she wasn't being introduced as Mike Coates' daughter. So anyway, our speaker is Tricia Coates. Tricia Coates and I went to high school together. We went to college together. And then by a series of lucky coincidences, she and her now husband lived with me when I was in law school in DC for a year. So we go back a long ways, and we're lucky to have her today. She's the director of UVM's Office of Engagement and the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships. That is, the Leahy Institute is a number of things, but it is also one of the first things of all the things that are going to be named Leahy in this state. Her office facilitates connections between UVM and Vermont organizations, businesses, and agencies to support our economies and communities. The mission of the Leahy Institute is to provide engagement opportunities and partnerships with UVM for the benefit of our rural places. The Institute brings financial and technical assistance, access to UVM research, faculty expertise, student projects and internships, and established UVM startup and engagement programs to collaborate on impactful solutions that drive positive change for Vermont and beyond. So that is who Tricia Coates is. She's going to be giving us a insight as to what she's doing these days. So ladies and gentlemen, Tricia Coates.
Thanks, Ted. I forgot about that year in your basement in Virginia. Be right back.
Thanks for bringing it up.
They seemed happy.
We were young and in love. Thank you very much for having me here today. This really means a lot to me. To be here and to think about Dad and how special the Rotary was to him. And to his best buddy, Bill Skip. So it's great to look and see a lot of familiar faces and to remember them and their wonderful time that they had here, working on community projects, and having just a wonderful community experience with you every Thursday morning. And so I know that my life was the subject of many, as they used to be called, happy finds. So I'm here to pay some of that back. So I'll leave this here on the podium for your use. Thank you all. So yes, when in 1980, my family moved from Brandon up here to Williston. So I have roots here that go very, very deep, and it's been a wonderful community. It was a wonderful community for my parents who were very involved. My own career, the common thread that I will say is that I've worked hard to try to connect Vermonters and Vermont communities with the resources they need to be their best and to thrive. So that's kind of the common thread of my career, and I won't review my resume with you today, but it did all lead me to UVM last year. So I've been at UVM for a year, and I'm really finding that this is the same mission. I have an opportunity to connect some amazing resources with Vermonters, Vermont organizations, Vermont businesses, communities, state agencies, with resources that they might need to solve a problem, to advance an idea. So let me explain a little bit about how I do that. Because you all know, there are probably many of you here who attended UVM, or your family members attended UVM. I did not. Ted and I went to St. Michael's College. But UVM, since its founding in 1791, has had a history of engagement with the state, right? I mean, it's the Extension Service, the College of Medicine, College of Nursing, College of Education. These have been deeply rooted in Vermont. 4 years ago, UVM office opened the Office of Engagement. And the idea was that UVM saw opportunities to be more involved in the Vermont economy, to reach maybe new areas of the state where we weren't really as engaged as we'd like to be, to find ways to invite more Vermonters in to connect with UVM. So that's the Office of Engagement, of which I am now the director. And we were just talking, Susan, about one of the engagement opportunities that exist at UVM, which is the community news service that provides, oh, hi, Jean. That provides students with an opportunity to provide reporting to newspapers around the state. So we've all heard how hard it is, how challenging it is to run a newspaper in a way that provides quality news to a community. And so our students are supplementing what the reporters are doing. It's just an example of a UVM engagement project, in addition to all of the other things happening. Last year, UVM received a $16 million grant from the USDA to stand up the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships. Now, this comes out of this engagement office, this engagement mission. What the Leahy Institute funding allows us to do is to fund partnerships with Vermonters. Okay, so we can actually now pair a research faculty with a community, with a nonprofit, with a state agency to do a project together. And those projects really need to address big challenges that are faced by our community. So I'm going to give you some examples. We had our first grant round that was announced in February. We had 13 funded projects. We have another grant round open now. So I'll have to leave you that way. I'll send the website link to Ted. You can share it. We have 13 projects. Let me give you some examples of what the work is that we can do with this really unique opportunity. Number one, I don't know if you've heard about the community school model. Deb, you probably remember that because the legislature approved a pilot program for 5 schools, K-12 schools across the state, to implement what's called a community school model, which allows the school to not only provide high quality K-12 education, but also connections for families, services that will allow a student to come to school prepared and to do well. It's a wonderful model, and we're showing a lot of positive results here in Vermont. We have funded a team of faculty researchers who are now embedded in those schools. They're helping to evaluate the projects. They're helping to connect them with national best practices. They're going to develop a set of recommendations on improvements to the program. So that's going to make it a better, stronger program. So that's an example of a great partnership between UVM, a state agency, and 5 schools. That's gonna lead to hopefully improved educational outcomes. Let me give you another example that I always love to talk about. The Leahy Institute funded a research project in Windham County to look at the very unique refugee resettlement program they have there. I'm not sure if any of you are aware of what's happening there, but the Ethiopian Community Development Council is a refugee resettlement agency. And they're welcoming new Americans from all over the world, especially from Africa. And they are living at the School for International Training there in Putney to get oriented and to begin to receive training and services. And then they are placed in rural communities around Windham and Windsor County. So this idea of settling refugees in small rural towns is unique. It's not happening elsewhere a lot. So the UVM research faculty is there this summer and fall, researching how this is working. Again, evaluating the success of the program. They're going to be making recommendations on how to improve it. And they're also, they also have plans to bring the learnings from Vermont to their national networks and to the Institute's national consortium. So that's a great benefit. I love this word that you have here. This a great benefit for the state to have effective programs because of the information that research can sometimes provide. I'll give you one more that's a little less glamorous, but not a day goes by when I don't use the word wastewater. So here you go. Not even 8 o'clock. The regional planning commissions around the state identified a need for a map that they could pull up and identify each parcel and what the wastewater capacity of that parcel is. Now that data is available. You can, if you can figure out how to get it and how to read it from A&R, God bless. But what they're doing is, our researchers and data folks are taking that and putting it into a map. So you can pull it up on your computer and look at that. And why is it important to know wastewater capacity? In the middle of a housing crisis, you know, where can we develop? Where should we conserve? Okay, so it's also going to be part of a zoning atlas. So in Williston, you'll be able to pull up this map and you'll be able to see not only by parcel, what the wastewater capacity is, what the zoning regulations are for that parcel. We have so many other big ideas, but for now, that's all we're offering. So that's something a university can do. We've got the Advanced Computing Center, we've got mapping experts, we've got the partnerships with the town of Williston. We've been talking with Eric about this. Eric. Hi, Eric. I'm sorry, we didn't even say hello.
I came in right when it started.
Is this sounding familiar to you?
Yeah, from you, yeah.
Great. So, we are able to do this because of our capacities, but also because of the partnerships we have. Because we can make all the maps and all the research we want, right? But if it's not grounded in community need and then kept up to date, and discussed and workshopped, then it's not going to be valuable to anybody. That's the work we're doing. So my job is not to create wastewater maps. My job is to put the Erics of Vermont together with our advanced computing folks to create the kind of tools that you need for your town. I'll mention just one other thing and then I'm going to conclude so you can ask questions. One of the key needs that we've identified across the state in talking to town administrators, state agencies, the need for more data, not just economic and workforce data, but also indicators of well-being, and to make this data more accessible for flooded communities who need to fill out FEMA applications. Communities who would like to apply for a grant so that they can preserve a property in town. So we are creating a new data services program through my office in collaboration with the Center for Rural Studies at UVM that does some really good work in this area. So I'm hoping that Eric or anyone here who's working on a project and needs data can call and make a request, and that you'll get the data, the cross-reference data that you need, and that it's open source. So these are the kinds of things that we're working on at the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships. And I will mention one other thing, but for now, I think that's the logical conclusion to my presentation. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments. Yes, Phil.
As a boy, my mother and father moved to my mother's home farm when my grandparents couldn't handle it anymore. And my father was a city boy from Newport. And the first thing that he did was to get involved with the extension service.
Yeah.
He learned from all the professors how to handle animals, how to farm, how to prepare crops. And all of this information was so valuable to our family to be able to become the farmers necessary to build our home and to raise our family. I hope that your projects will be that kind of support for the community, because it's a wonderful opportunity for the communities to be able to lean on the university and its expertise and abilities. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. And with your permission, I'd love to share that story back with my extension colleagues. Because I think
Absolutely.
they could use a boost. They are in the field helping farmers who've been flooded again. And so I'm sure they would be very happy to hear that. Thank you.
Hi. So could you say a little bit more about how, or maybe you said this and I missed it. I
Sure.
apologize if I was concentrating on my breakfast too much. But how I'm assuming that both the faculty and the students get involved in some of these projects and working. Could you say a little bit more about
Sure.
how, what benefit it is to, especially to maybe undergrads who, and I can say graduate
thank you.
students.
I didn't mention that.
Okay, all right.
So I'm really glad. Thank you. Do you remember I mentioned the refugee resettlement, and we have some researchers down in Windham County this summer? They have 4 UVM interns with them. And they're working at the Brattleboro Development Credit Corp, and they're writing reports with them about this project and its economic impact in the region. We have another project where, and this is maybe my own personal agenda. We have all these wonderful young people who come to UVM every year. And gosh, I would love for them to see, what life in Vermont is like and maybe decide to stay. 80% of the students at UVM are from out of state. So we have this summer, right now, 11 students living and working up in the kingdom with a number of different systems organizations, and they're doing everything from working at the Highland Arts Center to working at the Center for an Ag Economy. They're having the time of their lives up there. They're working very hard. The community has embraced them. So I think one of our priorities, Deb, is to incorporate as much opportunity for students to engage in this work as possible. And in terms of faculty, one of the things that I've learned about faculty, it's been a learning curve, is that there's, they have imperatives to research and to write papers and to instruct. And there are more and more incentives in funding opportunities for researchers to have community partners, to have research that is, what they call use-based or community-based research. So that we're kind of working with. We've had faculty come to us and say, I'm working in this field and I really don't have the partners in Vermont that I need. You know, that we're here for that. So we're also doing that internal partnership building for our faculty. Yes, sir.
Have you been able to involve the mid-school faculty very much in this?
Yes, and I'm still working on that. No, there have been some really wonderful folks at the Larner College of Medicine who that last year they hired a specialist in rural healthcare access. So she's been working with us, helping us to understand the needs. We've got some interesting projects with the emergency medicine research team that we're working on. So a work in progress.
Good to hear.
But access to healthcare in our rural communities is another key that we're identifying and thinking a lot about.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Barbara. I apologize.
No problem.
Excuse me. As you know, Rotary has a literacy initiative. And I was wondering if there's any way that we could hook up to some of the things you're doing, both with the resettlement population, which we in the past have helped out by giving them some tablets.
Nice.
And I know many of their teaching, I'm very friendly with some people who work through resettlement and do some remote teaching through Zoom and so on. So I was wondering about that. And my second question was, what are the 5 schools that you're using right now? Are any of them in our area?
No, I think they're, you know what, I'm not gonna remember them all, but let me try. Cabot, Newport, Harwood. And there's something down in Addison County. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
That's
the 5,
okay.
but they're not in Chittenden County.
Okay.
And thank you for the idea about literacy. I know that there's also, you just gave me an idea because we have a researcher who is studying how young people learn to read. So that's their area of research expertise. So I just thought maybe I should connect her with the
That would
community
be-
school
yeah.
person and the refugee resettlement person.
Yes.
But in the meantime, thank you for that offer. I'll speak with the team.
Okay, great.
Appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here, Trish. I knew your father outside of Rotary in the construction industry.
Oh, great.
He did always try to recruit me to join Rotary, but
And here you are.
well, I am, but yeah. But thank you for being here and thank you for what you do.
I so appreciate that, Norman. Thank you.
You know,
Hi, Jude.
I have to tell you that I'm here because of your dad. And my husband was here because of your dad. When I first moved here in 98, the town was redoing the town plan. And I thought it'd be good to work on it and meet some people here that like those things. And I was lucky enough to have your dad on my committee. And so we were working on the transportation part of it. And he said, well, you know, I'm a member of the Rotary Club. I think we should go and tell them what we're doing and ask for input since we're redoing it, which we did. And I was so impressed with what I saw in the Rotary that I told my husband, you know, that might be a really good group for me to get into. So he did that for 17 years.
17 years.
But your dad also said, well, you know what? Let's go to the state capitol and let's sit in, because he knew I had lobbied in Connecticut. He said, let's sit in on the transportation committee and see what they're talking about. And I learned that Vermont's very different from Connecticut because when we opened the door to go into the meeting, we were practically right on the table.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to get folding chairs and not totally unfold them to sit on the side. And your dad made such an impact on this town and your mom too, both of you. So I thank you for that. And I think that your parents must be smiling to see, he used to talk about you a lot
No.
because he knew you
I'm
got
gonna have
He got into a lot of the political things,
Yep.
which I had interest too. So he was very proud
Thank
of
you.
you and what you were doing. But last but not least, you talk about connection. It turned out that you had a picture on your refrigerator of my in-law's best friend's cottage in Connecticut, which you people were renting. How's that for
Wow.
a time? Anyway, so the town misses both of them.
Thank you. Well, isn't it wonderful to live in a community where you can be of service? Where there's a place like this where you can come and work together to help others.
But the collaboration that your
Yeah.
father did on many, many fronts and everything made a huge difference. So you're in the
Well,
right
and
place.
he had a lot of fun doing it.
Yes.
Thank you. Dan, did you have a question?
You mentioned the refugee,
Yes.
rural refugee resettlement. There we go. Could you talk a little bit about housing and how
Yeah.
you're able to find housing for those families?
Well, that and transportation are the biggest challenges. So the Brattleboro Development Credit Corp is one of the partners in that project. So they're working with all of the landlords in the area to make sure that they're working with folks who are prepared to support this kind of tenant and to provide whatever, language skills and additional support and information they need. So there's not enough housing for the number of folks that we would like to welcome here through that program. But settling in rural communities in available apartments is a strategy around housing that other refugee resettlement agencies haven't painstaking. And then they've worked with the local public transportation company to do a loop that gets these folks to work. It's been a lot of work to have it all come together.
And now.
We do have time for another question if there is.
Does the Office of Engagement work with other colleges in the area where the majority of students are actually Vermonters or
Right.
passionate about the things that they do, and they're more aware of what's happening in Vermont, and they actually want to stay, but they might not have the funds to go to UVM and have that sort of collaboration?
Thanks. We do. We work very closely with the Community College of Vermont and the Vermont State College, Vermont State University. It is now. We do work very closely with them, and one of the things I'm also supporting is some larger economic development strategies that are coming out of UVM's administration. And in all of those strategies, whether it's a tech hub or a biotech incubator, that's another presentation. We're pulling in those partners because they are often more able to provide the statewide workforce development programs that, need to feed into the opportunities. So yes, the other really interesting partner we've worked with is Norwich University has really come to the plate, and they wanna work. Our engineering schools are collaborating more around flood resilience, which is really great. Thanks for the question. And that's a good segue, and I don't wanna steal your whole morning here, but it's really interesting how hard it is to give away money. The state of Vermont and UVM are collaborating on a loan repayment program. So if you graduate with a bachelor's or a master's degree from a Vermont university, any, Norwich, UVM, any of them, and you stay in Vermont and work, you get $5,000 off of your student loans. Okay, $5,000. So this is state of Vermont, and UVM's working with VSAC to do this, and it's really, the state really had the intention of boosting the workforce. So I'm gonna leave this.
To send to my grandson.
Yeah.
Well, usually grandparents are the best outreach we do for this program. So I'll leave these
Great.
with you folks. Thank you very much for having me.
One thing for you to do before you go, you get to pick the winning raffle ticket.
Get them out. Here we go. Jen, do you have yours out?
I do.
The last three?
Just the last three.
See, I can just do the last three. If you can, it's 684. That would be me. Oh. And then, and then 10.
One of the things we do in your honor is we make a donation in your name to the member program and Williston.
Oh, thank you.
Going out in your name.
I love that. Thank you very much.
All right.
Sally's the other one.
Thank you so much. That was fascinating. And for inspiration today, I'm gonna take over. And yesterday in our board meeting, Chris brought something up that I hadn't even heard before. So our Rotary, we have 5 core values, which were very inspiring to me. So so what it made me think of is when I want to invite someone, and when you all want to invite someone to come visit us, these are things that you should keep in mind when thinking about people. So service, fellowship, diversity, integrity, and leadership. 5 core values of Rotary. And one of the things that Tricia just said gave me another little brief inspiration. Yesterday, we were at the DMV. Elena got her license plates. And it was a disaster. I've never seen so many people there, and it was a mess. And in front of us was a woman who was deaf. And so she was trying to talk to this very overworked man who was trying to take everyone in all at once, and they couldn't understand each other. And this guy came around and was like, "You're deaf? I can help." And he just immediately started translating. I guess he has a brother who's deaf, and so he was fluent in ASL and did the translation and got the language. Anyway, so it just made me think about when she was talking about like seeing people's needs and creating partnerships and just helping out in the moment. I saw that happen yesterday, and it was pretty cool. All right. Move on to some club business. Marty, did you want to do something with those?
Well, I have shirts left that Leslie gave me from the 5K. We have a bunch. I don't know what
Okay.
sizes they are. I thought right after the meeting, if anyone wants a shirt, I'll give them away till they're gone. Yes, Leslie.
Do you want me to put the sizes out on the table over there?
Hey, well, we can both do that.
Okay. Andy, you have
Just a quick update, several of you responded about the garden project for a variety of thank you. For a variety of reasons, logistics didn't work out, so rather than send an email out, I'm reporting it still will be done. I'm rescheduling with that, and so I will resolicit, work efforts. Thank you.
Okay, and I have had some questions about our budget for this year, and it's coming. We did a big software update, thanks to Andy, and so with that transition, it's taking us a little longer to get things on track, but we'll see it soon. Anything else I'm forgetting, Walter?
So, I'm in charge of the benches in Williston, and I've gone around and checked, I think there's about 11, and basically all of them have to be sanded down before you can paint them, so, I think I'm willing to do that, to sand them, because it won't take that long, if you're just working with one person, so, so next week, what I'll be asking for is pairs of people that will be willing to paint one bench. You know, we'll supply the brushes, the paints and everything. It'll probably take, if it's sanded, it'll probably only take about a half an hour. And that's it. So just think ahead a little bit about next week. Hopefully we'll be ready to go.
And should we reach out to you if we can do that?
We'll just take names when we're here next week.
Okay, so like after the meeting.
Right,
next week.
I can have a list of what they are, and you can choose whichever one you want.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Barb, you had something?
I have a
Oh,
question.
Leslie. Yes.
So the benches in Allenbrook Forest, I
Right.
think it's called. My understanding is, because we had looked at maintaining those, and they really need, so much. And then we found out that they actually belong to the town. Is that?
I don't know, I mean, I think, you know,
Which benches are
The benches in I'm calling it the Allenbrook Forest, they're the concrete bases and then the wooden bench and back, which they're always in the shade and they're always wet and they're just rotting.
Are there 3 of them?
I think so.
The club installed them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were told they belong to the town.
They
so-
might belong to the
Yeah.
town, but the club put them in.
Okay, so I think just in terms of trying to maintain those benches, it probably is going to require a different type of seat and back material. Not that I'm all that knowledgeable about construction, mind you, but it just is really difficult. So I just throw that out there for whatever it's worth.
We can take a look. I can talk to you after.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
All right. Susan, all right, your bags.
Just a
You have some.
reminder that, through the month of July, these bags at Hannaford, if you purchase one at $1 comes to our club. And Jen had the brilliant idea of donating them to the Williston Community Development Shelf. And she, brought all these today. Thank you. So, if you are shopping at Hannaford and think to pick up one or more of these, that would be great.
And you know too, because you picked them up, they're not all the one, it's the ones that are $2.50 that you get the dollar from for our Rotary. There is other sizes, there are 99-cent bags, I think, and then the $4.50 bag. It's that size in that bag.
Yeah, and if you want to keep it for yourself, they are actually really nicely designed. There's little holders inside.
Yeah, right.
Check that out.
For
Inside, they
like
have
a-
holders.
Oh.
Yeah.
For holding
Bag
bags
of all
for
your
your-
Home shopping network, right?
It's for big bag or
All right, thank you. Go to Hannaford, buy some bags. Okay, one more thing.
Yeah, so after 15 years of heading literacy, I'm trying to transition so that by 2025, someone else can chair. So I'd like anybody who's thinking of perhaps contact me.
Yes, so several of our committees are looking for new chairs. We found one for the service committee, but yes, we need one for the PR committee and for the youth committee. And we'll need one for the grants and donations committee coming up too, because Vince is going to be president next year. And so all of those transitions should be happening like now. So if you have any interest in stepping up, please talk to Barb for youth, Leslie for PR, and Vince for grants. And thank you, Chris, for taking over chairing the service committee, so Andy can have a break. And with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Chris if there's nothing else. Start you off with some